As we continue to follow some of the top headlines from around the world, as a U.S. Navy fighter jet shot down an Iranian drone that was approaching the aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham, in the Arabian Sea. This, according to the U.S. Central Command earlier today, threatening to ramp up tensions between the Trump administration as they warn of possible military action to get Iran to the negotiating table. For more on this, let's go out right now to Jillian Turner with this report.
Negotiating with them right now.
Earlier today, 2 alarming military provocations by Iranian forces. U.S. CENTCOM reports destroying an Iranian drone as it approached a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier with unclear intent. An F-35C fighter jet from Abraham Lincoln shot down the Iranian drone in self-defense and to protect the aircraft carrier and personnel on board. Shortly after that incident, Iranian forces harassed a U.S. commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz, even threatening to board the vessel. Tehran also making an 11th-hour gambit tonight to move Friday's nuclear talks from Turkey to Oman.
Nice try, Khomeini. Nice try, Iranians. You guys make me laugh. We're going to move the talks. Listen, come to the table, bring your best deal, and if we can work with that, you guys are in luck. If not, we're going to have you meet our little aircraft carrier, our little friend, USS Lincoln. Have a nice day.
Had a chance to do something a while ago and it didn't work out, and we did Midnight Hammer. I don't think they want that happening again, but they would like to negotiate.
These latest moves differ starkly from the regime's tone overnight when President Pezeshkian posted, "I've instructed my Minister of Foreign Affairs to pursue fair and equitable negotiations guided by the principles of dignity, prudence, and expediency." Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today to prep for Friday. His office says the Prime Minister made clear his position that Iran has proven time and again that its assurances cannot be trusted. At least one Republican senator agrees with that assessment.
That regime has clearly demonstrated that they don't respond to threats, only to significant pressures.
The regime's demands to change up the Friday talks, as well as today's military maneuvers, increase the risk of some ultimate kind of military confrontation. Officials here are busy worrying about one small misstep resulting in a full-blown regional war. At the State Department, Jillian Turner, Fox News.
All right, potentially one small misstep averted today as the drone aggressively approached that aircraft carrier with unclear intent. We're going to be joined right now by retired Major General Randy Manner. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox, sir. And obviously, this happened there kind of near the Strait of Hormuz. But what do you make of this development?
This is something where the Aircraft Carrier Task Force was fully within its rights to protect itself. It is my hypothesis that this was a mistake by the Iranians, that they quite frankly just flew too close, and that's the consequence of it. If they had tried something much more significant with a higher number of drones, that would have been perhaps a true threat to them. In this particular case, the captain on the seas made the right call and ordered the F-35 to down that drone. So this is completely normal and I do not think this is going to escalate because of this event alone.
Yeah, potentially flying a little bit too close to the sun, the USS Abraham Lincoln, that is. And of course, they say it was aggressively approached. You say it was potentially too close. When they say that, what do they mean?
That means that it's within the outer perimeter of the zone of air defense for that aircraft carrier task force. But it's a considerable distance. Because remember, jet aircraft can move very, very fast over a short distance. So sure, it extends for well over 100 miles out, if not far more. The important thing is, I think the Iranian drone operator made a mistake. It was dealt with, and I think that's going to be the end of it. I think that what they did with the motor vessel Stena Imperative about harassing it and telling it to be prepared to be boarded was obviously offset because the tanker basically just accelerated, and they're doing the right thing to protect themselves as they await further orders.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that strike carrier group, it's not necessarily the closest in proximity. The USS Abraham Lincoln signaling about 500 miles into that Arabian Sea. The Shahed 139 drone was shot down by that F-35C. In terms of the drone that was out there? You mentioned that if it was a magnitude multiple drones, that it might be seen as more aggressive. What's the potential capability of an isolated, a single drone? What's the capability of it?
It's very limited, actually, although it's important to know that if a drone with the right armaments was to get through, it could cause significant harm to the aircraft carrier or to its support ships. So it's important that no foreign aircraft drones get within that distance. And the Navy, as it should, takes its security extremely seriously. They're not going to endanger U.S. lives that are on the open ocean in that manner. It's not going to happen. So they were very prudent. They did the right thing. Remember that if we're talking about the Chinese with Taiwan, that could be something where they would not be sending one drone, not a dozen drones, but perhaps hundreds of drones after a carrier task force. This is not what happened. I think this truly was an error by the Iranians, and I believe that will not be a cause for direct escalation on this event.
And of course, we also heard from Press Secretary with the White House, Caroline Leavitt, talking about this and saying, quote, President Trump is always wanting to pursue diplomacy first. Obviously, it takes two to tango. This, as you said, alluded to, this does not throw off anything that we're expecting later on this week with some of those negotiations. This is a moot point, correct, you feel?
I believe so. I believe the most important thing is to continue to negotiate and negotiate from a position of strength. And I do agree, by the way, with many of the other reporters that you've had on, that the Iranians have not always been accountable for what they say they're going to do. So I think it's important that we position ourselves from a position of strength, and then we'll see what the president and the administration decide to do based on the negotiations with the Iranians.
And we've seen over last summer, obviously, some of these locations, these air bases, Al Udeid. We saw the Strait of Hormuz after those strikes on the Iranian nuclear sites. And obviously, moving forward with this negotiating table, this posture of strength with the USS Abraham Lincoln, the strike carrier group in that region. Is Iran handling this? Are they aware of this? And is this enough to potentially get this negotiating table, these negotiations moving forward?
So first of all, the Iranians know exactly what's off their coast. They don't know exactly where it is. That could have been the reason they were sending out that drone to be able to search. It's something where they know what's out there. They don't know exactly what it could be, where it is exactly. I think it's very important that we continue to be able to, as I said before, speak from a position of military strength while we are negotiating. That is what is very, very important for our country, not only for here, but elsewhere in the world as well.
Is there any other type of signals from Iran that you need to be aware of about what could happen next?
This is going to be something that's really going to be the purview of the NSA, examining the preparation for the air defenses, looking at the various missile sites and seeing what state of readiness that they are in terms of defensive operations or offensive operations against U.S. interests in the region, as well as, of course, with Israel. So this is all about intelligence gathering to ensure we have an accurate look at what their weapons postures are. And that way, if we have to be, that's a different story.
That is very true. All right, retired Major General, thank you so much. I appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox. Your insight is obviously invaluable.